It's Christine Wilson and Saphira Galoob, and you'll thank us later. Tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. Bring it on, girls and boys.
You know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me. They're going to hate us, Saphira. It's going to be nuts. Welcome to our first episode of You'll Thank Us Later. This is a brand new podcast brought to you by me, Christine Wilson, and my dear
Saphira
friend.
Galoob. Sorry.
Yes. No, you're good.
I'm already Saphira, interrupt us.
No, it's okay. I gave a long pause like I was passing it over to you, and then I wasn't sure. That's what we're going to have to figure out in these. So we're going to tell you all about who we are, how we know each other, and what we're going to do on this podcast and why you'd want to tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun. So also on the screen, if you're watching us in video, you're going to see that we have our two amazing producers on, and I want to introduce them too. We have Courtney Brewer and Nicole Toczko. They are going to chime in and give us perspectives that we really need, Saphira, because we do need a younger perspective. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Saphira, to introduce yourself and give people a little bit about you, and then I'll introduce myself.
Wonderful. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. And I think I anticipated this so much as if it was going to be really difficult and really stressful. But in fact, it's the most enjoyable and the most relaxing thing that I am doing in my day. And I think it's just a reflection of the long relationship we've had and our ability to navigate really difficult and complicated things together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. And through our journeys as entrepreneurs together and going through our marriages and motherhood and really all the things that we as mid-40s and mid-50s women experience, I think you and I are uniquely positioned to allow our viewers to make their own mistakes, but not needing to make ours. And so I think that's how we find ourselves here. And I'll leave some of the more intriguing elements of my background for part of our get to know each other. But hopefully that frames why I think we're here and what I think we have to accomplish, which is a lot, sister.
I agree. And honestly, the biggest thing that we are really good at, both of us, is talking. We're good talkers. We enjoy talking to each other. So it just made sense that we would share all of our secrets and lessons learned and our failings with others. But really appreciate Courtney and Nicole being here to help us produce this show. They have worked on other podcasts, and we're going to make sure this one's a lot of fun. I want to make this first episode a little bit of get to know Christine and Saphira. And I'd also love for you guys to get to know Courtney and Nicole too. So we're going to go through, we have blindly created questions for each other. So I'm just going to give you a little background. Saphira and I have known each other for over 15 years. We have become closer friends probably in the last 10 years, and we know a lot about each other, but sometimes we don't always know the reasons for things that have happened in each other's lives. And we also want the chance for you all to get to know us. So we're going to go back and forth. We are asking blind questions. We each made our own questions for each other. We haven't seen them, and hopefully we'll have some fun with these. So Saphira, I'm going to ask you my first question. Is Saphira your real name? And if not, where did that name come from? And being married to a man who goes by a name that I know his mother did not put on his birth certificate, I find this a fascinating thing. And Saphira is such a cool name. So how did that come about?
So Saphira is not my birth name. I refer to Saphira as my name that was a gift that came, it was actually in my 20s. And the background is that I was a trained classical dancer who became really proficient in the art of Middle Eastern belly dance. But I was also a new and budding lawyer. And so I was a lawyer as Rachel Galoob, and I was a dancer. And in the world of Middle Eastern belly dance, it is not uncommon to have a nom de plume for your stage. And the way that you get that is that you either can name yourself or someone can name you. After I took the bar exam, before we knew the results, my best friend and I went on an adventure of sorts, and we landed in Turkey, and we were in a spot called Kuşadası, Turkey, which is in the western coast of Turkey, kind of midway through the country. And we were in an outdoor place you could eat and drink, and there were women dancers who were Romani, And those women dancers were doing their shtick, which was a very unique form of dancing. And I was sitting next to a Egyptian French-speaking guy, and we were talking about us and our backgrounds. And he said to me, if you are a Midwestern Jewish girl who speaks French and knows rak sharki, which is the dance form, belly dance, so proficiently, then you are Saphira Galoob, which means the ambassador of belly dance. And at that moment, I knew I had my gift. That was my name. And from then on, everything kind of flowed from my new identity or my kind of evolved identity as Saphira.
I love that. I did not know that whole story. I did not know it was so cool and so complicated and so worldly. I just imagine that you're always just in Arlington, Virginia with me doing things. And meanwhile, you're all over the world and speaking French, which I've encountered you doing, which is fascinating and fun.
It absolutely, I think it does kind of throw people because they don't expect that to come from me. So I have a question for you that is, I was thinking about like the number of things I wanted to ask you. And I think as really expressive entrepreneurial women with big personalities, I think people make presumptions about us.
Yeah.
And I think that we sometimes play into those presumptions. And since I know so much about you and I love so much about you, I would love to know what characteristics and traits about you do you think are most misunderstood by the people who know you the most, whether it's friends, family, or coworkers?
Oh, everybody thinks that I have like 100% self-confidence. They're like, you're not afraid of anything. You talk to strangers, you can walk into a room and you have all this confidence. And people will even point it out sometimes like, it's not fair that you have all that confidence and you expect me to be able to do the things that you do. And I don't have that. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea what goes on inside my head. When I walk into a room with people and I am like surveying, like, where am I going to fit in? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to go talk to? And my armpits are tingling because I'm anxious and I'm feeling that like, will I find someone to talk to that wants to talk to me? Obviously, when I have a few glasses of wine, I get much less inhibited and I'm more willing to take risks and talk to people. But I have a lot of anxiety and fears and moments of like, I don't know what I'm doing, like everybody else. So when I tell people that I have all of that, they don't believe me. And I'm like, oh, trust me. But I had a mom that really pushed me to go outside of my comfort zone for the betterment of my life. So I remember the very first time that I have a solid lesson in my mind. I was a young girl. My sister wasn't there, so I'm guessing I was young, under the age of 5, because she was born when I was 5. We were in the airport, and there was a woman who was knitting. And I said to my mom, what is she knitting? And my mom said, well, go ask her. And I said, are you crazy? I would never go ask a stranger what they're doing. And she said, no, go. It's fine. I'm watching. You're safe. She's a nice grandmother kind of woman. Go ask. And I thought I was going to pee my pants. I can, to this day, 43 years later, feel the anxiety I felt in that moment. And I went over to the woman and I said, what are you knitting? And she said, oh, I'm making a blanket for my granddaughter. She's so wonderful. And she's just a year old. And she talked to me and she was so sweet. And I, to this day, can think of like, it was such a nice experience to talk to that woman. And I wouldn't have done it if my mom hadn't encouraged me to get past the fear.
I appreciate that about you. And I actually wouldn't have ever thought that you had anxiety, but it is a relief to know that we can be confident and successful and capable women and still manage our anxiety, both with grace and a reality that this is kind of a part of our makeup, but it doesn't have to be our entire makeup.
Absolutely. And I work past it all the time. And this is one of my lessons I've learned in life, is that generally, if you ask people about themselves, they're pretty happy to talk to you. And that is where you can open up conversation. And in the rare occurrence where somebody brushes you off or isn't interested or is rude, so what? They're just another person. They're not anybody that's going to ruin your life or change who you are. You say, oh, well, they missed out. They missed out on getting to have this interesting conversation with me, and I'm going to move on. So yes, I feel the anxiety. I have also learned that the repercussions are not the end of the world if it's a failure, and people love to talk about themselves. So I generally find something to ask someone about, whether it's something they're wearing or something they're doing, or if they give me an indication of where they're from. People love to talk about their hometowns. And I've been to all 50 states, so I can tell some sort of story about the state they're from.
I did not know that. That is
Yeah.
really an impressive little checkbox. I
It
don't know
was.
anybody who's been to all 50 states.
North Dakota was the last one. That was a tricky one. I made my sister drive cross country up through North Dakota just so I could get it. It was not the most exciting trip of our lives. No offense, North Dakota, but I had to get that one. So you're a lawyer, you're belly dancing, you are looking at what you want to do with your life. And I know that you've made a couple of career shifts that are very non-traditional, probably really outside the box for most people. You went from being a lawyer, a traditional lawyer, to running your own belly dancing school and being an entrepreneur. Tell me about that decision, and then eventually the decision to leave the belly dancing school. And how did all those decisions come about? What did you do to make those decisions?
And I think, honestly, some of these, we're opening some Pandora's box of opportunity to explore over our podcast together. So I'll kind of broad brush them just to kind of frame it out. I think that all of these decisions have been made from the framework that I have wanted to live a very satisfying, regret-free existence. And I have a very low tolerance for being unhappy. And I have a very low tolerance for not feeling like I'm in doing something that I love to do and do well. Some people feel like, okay, I invested in a law degree. I have a master's of law. I've got all this money in my education. I'm making a lot of money. If I'm like not happy, that's like a game changer. And it's framed in, not to get too serious, but my sister was killed when I was in college, and she was killed in a car accident. And it was pretty devastating. And that was like, before Sarah's death, after Sarah's death. And that really defined that I know it could all be taken away immediately. When I started a trajectory as a lawyer, I didn't like it so much. I wasn't that good at it. I was really loving teaching, and it felt like it was something I wanted to try. I didn't know how it was going to work. I had no idea what kind of money I was going to make. We could talk about that later, and how I was even going to do it. But I just knew that I didn't want to do what I was doing. I did not want to continue what I was doing. I wasn't sure where I was going to land, but I was pivoting from a place of not being happy, not being satisfied. And so that was the belly dancing world. And I did that. I had a school, 2007 to 2017. And then when I decided that was no longer satisfying, again, these moments where I say, what do I want my life to be? If my life ends tomorrow, am I satisfied with where I am? And the answer is no. And I don't always know where I'm going when I'm pivoting and shifting, but I know that I'm leaving a place that is not giving me life enjoyment, and I'm not either challenged or I'm not feeling like it's so when I shifted from the belly dancing, that is when I shifted into a lobbying practice in the cannabis space. So I don't want to give away all of the goods on our first episode, but I think that the main things are, if you are not happy, stop, pivot, and turn. And I will tell you, the financial implications were significant. The relationship implications were significant. The starting over and having to learn an entirely new industry and a new career were significant. But all of that was accomplishable. I just had to decide to stop, pivot, and move. And so that's what I did.
Love it. I love it. Being an entrepreneur that started my own business, I did it out of a place of being unhappy, having had young children and not seeing them because I went to an office every day and I was on someone else's timetable and schedule. And I did make that pivot. I think I was reactionary and maybe not intentional. It was like, I can't keep doing this. This is terrible, but I need to make money for my family. And I also have ADHD. So when I hyper focus, I can do crazy things in a very short amount of time. So in 24 hours, I had a logo, a website, and a concept of a brochure of services. I look back and I'm mortified that anyone ever saw them, but it at least laid the groundwork and made me feel like I couldn't turn back. I had put something out there and I had to go. So, and that's the marketing agency that I still run 13 years later, and of which Courtney and Nicole are part of.
But I think you actually bring up a really good point as we're thinking about people who are making decisions about their lives, and particularly people who are overachievers or they're accustomed to seeing, and you've been talking about like driving across country. When you drive across country, you know what the route is going to be. You kind of know where you're going to stop overnight. And generally, you know where you're going to eat and you know how much gas is in a tank. But when you start a business, if you think, and this is something when you said, I didn't really know where it was going to be, I wasn't really sure where that was going to reveal itself. But like all of the places along the way are completely unknown. You just know you're driving in a direction You said I was
Yeah.
mortified by some of those early branding pieces, but you know what? It didn't kill you, but you certainly have some
No.
perspective on it. You drove through it,
I
Christine.
drove through it. I drove through it. And God knows, I mean, I was off-roading half of the time without a map. You just keep plowing through. I'm very lucky also. I had a supportive spouse who was able to help me through some of the tougher years where I wasn't making a lot of money. The nights where I was crying, how am I going to make payroll? How is this all going to work? He was very supportive. I definitely think there's times where he's wished it would go away, but I think having a partner that overall has been supportive is a big piece of the ability to do it.
I'm curious because, you had that first moment as a young girl when you found your first moment of courage, and maybe courage and confidence lived hand in glove there. I'm also curious, do you remember the very first moments that you were proud of yourself?
Oh, yeah. I have kind of two pretty big milestones for pride. So I was diagnosed with scoliosis at the age of 8, which is generally pretty young. It usually comes about, people find it when they're in puberty. And I had to wear a back brace 23 hours a day. And that first hour I wore that brace, I was like, I will never make it through another hour. Never mind, God knows how many years of my life. I remember the first month that I was able to wear it 23 hours a day for a month. My dad took me to Toys R Us and said I could pick out anything I wanted. And I walked through that Toys R Us so proud. I was so proud because it was so hard. It was a really hard experience. I did pick out a skateboard, and wearing a back brace and a skateboard are maybe not two things that go well together. So my dad redirected me to a microscope, which probably was better. Skateboarding in a back brace is probably pretty dangerous. But ultimately, that day, I felt a lot of pride.
That says it to me about you, which is not a surprise, but it does kind of paint in some of the colors with more vibrance about who you are in your DNA, which is things are not going to happen in your world unless you make them happen. I mean, nobody else could wear that back brace 23 hours that day.
No.
And you've associated with these moments where you can stop and say, I did that. I chose to do that. I really do believe that as we look back in our life and we look forward into our possibilities, it's all you, baby. Ain't nobody else doing it. I don't care how close they are, how often you sleep in a bed next to them, if you gave birth to them, if they gave birth to you, it ain't happening if you're not doing it.
That's true. That is true. Nobody else is walking in your shoes for you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned having lost your sister at a young age and that it was a pretty traumatic experience for you and your family. I know that many times you and I have talked about that experience being, as you said, the before and after Sarah passing, being such a pivotal moment in your life of how that trauma affected you. And I wouldn't say defined you, but made you much more aware of what mattered to you in life. Can you give me some other examples of kind of how that affected you and your family and some of the good that came out of something so terrible?
Yeah. And I will say, like, she died in 1991. That was a minute ago, but you even can see in my face and my voice how vulnerable it feels to have lost something so important. And there is, I don't want to call it a silver lining, but when you survive a bereavement like that, it does redefine you completely. And in addition to everything being so delicate, I think that is like the delicateness of it all. But I think the other thing that has taught me, and this makes me difficult to have as a friend, but it's also difficult for me to bring people into my life as a friend, because when you've lost your sister or you've been to hell and back, I have absolutely no tolerance for things that are not important. And when I say things are not important, people who place, and we can talk about this in motherhood, and a disproportionate amount of intensity on their child not playing in the soccer game, or Mary not getting invited to the birthday party, or whatever it is. Even in relationships, the importance placed on things that are not life-threatening or that could go away tomorrow. And so it really positioned me to have a very measured reaction to things that other people react to what I would consider to be disproportionate. I struggle with having patience with people who give disproportionate importance to things that I do not think are important. And I also have found that even in my marriage, I'm 30 years this year, my husband and I will have.
Wow.
Yep. And I will say the quality has really improved. It's not always been a perfect marriage, but we do have a real intentional, as a couple, we both decide how much import to put on something. Like, how important is it to be upset about X, Y, or Z when bigger things are important? So I think that really helped define it. And then the other thing I would say that Sarah's losing a sister so young, because I don't now have a sister, is that I really cherish my life because I may not have it this afternoon.
Right.
And that gives me, as a result, I approach life with this voracious appetite. And it's kind of what I'm known for. People are like, oh my God, you have so much. Somebody said to me, I had that energy of a college student the other day. I was like, really? It's like, because I'm pretty damn tired. But I do have this. When people know me, they just know that I just can't get enough of it because I know how quickly it can be taken away.
I mean, Saphira, the number one thing I use, and Courtney and Nicole can back me up, the number one thing I say when I explain my friend Saphira to people is I say she's like a superhero. She literally puts on her cape and tackles things that would scare the shit out of me. The first time you told me, like, you do home exchange, I gave you 500 reasons why I was way too afraid. Somebody's going to look at my underwear. Somebody's going to go into my closet and see that it's a mess. Somebody's going to sleep in my bed. Oh my gosh. And you're like, yeah, but I'm going to go to Europe for a month and you're still going to be sitting in Arlington, Virginia. And I'm like,
I didn't say that to you, Christine.
Well,
I think I said, why
you didn't say it that way.
Ready? Well, why don't we come get your house ready to home exchange? Hopefully I said that.
But now that I know
pain in the ass to have someone's life.
I mean, the home exchange is barely even touching at the things that you do that are brave and outside of the box of what most people are willing to do. And I've always said that I, in many ways, have lived my life following the prescription, right? It was like, you're going to go to college. You're going to meet a guy, you're going to get married, then you're going to have children, you're going to buy a home somewhere along the way. And I did everything in the line of what I was told was the way that you're supposed to do it. And so watching someone who's like, yeah, I'm going to go buy a house in Spain and it's literally rubble and I'm going to turn it into an oasis. And maybe you had fears of it and maybe you had nervousness over how it would all turn out. But from the outside, it was like, yeah, of course I'm going to do this. I want to live in Spain. So I'm going to do it. It's no big deal. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. And if there's obstacles, I'll get through them. And I, on the outside, I'm like, I can't even imagine like trying to figure out how to buy a beach house 3 hours away. So I just admire the way you tackle life and that you inspire me to be much less afraid of big decisions and to realize that you can do those things and you can step outside of your comfort zone and it can bring you so much joy. So thank you for being an inspiration for that. I'll let you know when I finally get the nerve to do something really big. But
well, I appreciate you saying that. I have so much humility hearing it from someone coming from you, because I will tell you, I always say that I'm not a shitty person, but I leave a lot of shit in my wake. I get an idea, but I have no idea how to execute it. But I can tell you from the moment that I knew that you had every skill set on the planet, I would say, I'm going to do this. I have no idea how, but I'll call Christine this evening and she'll get me there.
Well,
I'll tell you, and your team as well. Also,
I was going to say, it's the team, Saphira, that has the skill set.
Hey, listen, you know how to bring the right people on the bus. It doesn't really matter where you put them. So somebody like me doesn't get to where they're going without somebody like you. So don't kid yourself. I would be just a great idea unexecuted if I didn't have you. And my husband was the one who turned the rubble into reality. So I may have the ideas, but I don't necessarily know I'm the one who brings it over the finish line. But I am a good cheerleader along the way.
I love it. And the big ideas are so important. I am, we were doing ADHD testing for my son and we're sitting in the interview session and I'm laughing as this woman is explaining all the behaviors of ADHD. And, it's very common if a child has ADHD that one of the parents does. And as we're talking, my husband's just pointing at me. And she said to me, she goes, well, yes, but you're in your mid 40s and you figured out coping mechanisms and skills. She's like, your business and the women and the men that you have hired and have in your organization is the ultimate coping mechanism for the actual glory of your ADHD, because she's like, it allows you to have big ideas and then the people who can make sure it's actually going to get executed. So I just want you to know, it's not really me. It's Courtney and Nicole and their teams. And those are the people that make sure they happen. Also for when they can tell me that my big ideas are just ridiculous and stupid. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not reality and they're not that interesting. But just to mention really quickly, the house in Spain, you've been generous enough to take me on vacation there. And it's such a wonderful experience. If you haven't been to Mallorca, highly recommend. If you're capable of getting there, I would say put it on your top of your list. But one of the things that I think is interesting is one, that you traveled a lot of the world. You speak French, you speak some Spanish. You really are a person who absorbs the world. You've taken people to Morocco on trips and all of that. So tell me a little bit about where you'd like to go in the future, what countries you haven't explored yet, where are you hoping to go, what you think that worldliness has brought to your life.
I'm going to answer the question by framing it in kind of the way that I approach all things, which is for me at least, the way that I kind of assess where I am in my life is to step out of my life and look at it from the outside in. And that helps me assess, well, what do I like about it and what do I not like about it? Which is why I picked my butt up and went to Thailand on a boot camp for 6 weeks because I needed a paradigm adjustment and figure out, what does my life look like? Let me look at it from the outside in. So I do think that has been an important way for me to garner perspective when I haven't been able to do it by sitting in my own existence. So as I kind of made a reference, I had done the Thailand trip a couple of times, but there's a lot in Southeast Asia we have not done. Oh, yeah. And I'm planning on taking the fam there soon. I would also say that there are a lot of places in South America that we haven't traveled to, and I don't want to give away anything big because one of the things I do for my husband and a son, as you guys know, and I take them on surprise trips and international trips. And so they basically have to show up at the airport with a suitcase and they have no idea where we're going. And so I can report on, I'm not going to say now, but I have got a couple of surprise trips for them. They have literally no idea where they're going. And I've done this before. It is fantastic.
I love it.
They have nothing to look forward to. They just know that they have to have their passport and they have to have a suitcase. And I kind of generally tell them if it's going to be hot or cold.
Sounds amazing.
Well, I think it's fun because what do we have to look forward to in terms of when you've been married for 30 years, you got to kind of keep it spicy a little bit. And I'm a 17-year-old, so like nothing's exciting for him, right? When I watch other Americans, they're like, oh, they kind of like jump around. Like, oh, I've already been to Spain. I don't need to go back there. Whereas I actually have the philosophy where, I've been to Spain dozens of times now, and I haven't even begun to peel back that layer. And so my kind of secret hope is, I want to get a car and drive around Spain and hit every little town and walk the Camino and do the walking spiritual trip from the west of France all the way down to the north of Spain and into Portugal. There's so much about Mallorca that I don't know. The other Baleares, Menorca, Formentera, Ibiza, maybe yes or no. But I really love to go really deep into a place as opposed to just be like, oh, been to Spain, been to France. That doesn't appeal to me as really going deep and knowing something, which is more like my personality anyway, being really good at one thing than being kind of half-assed at a bunch of things. But you guys have done some recent traveling. How difficult has it been with your more conservative approach towards living? It's not so much you're conservative, but you're not quite as like, and I'm not glib, but I'm like, okay, how have you all made decisions on what to prioritize, particularly if you have to take the opinion of a intellectual husband and two sons with strong personalities? How have you made those decisions to get up and go and then actually go?
I'm going to make a side note here, just so everybody knows right from the very beginning. I'm so liberal. I'm crazy liberal. She means conservative in other ways, just so you know.
I'm so
want any confusion.
Right. That is so true. It didn't even occur to me.
That I just want the world to know there is no doubt where I'm voting in this upcoming election. Go Harris Falls. Okay. So from a more conservative perspective of seeing the world, if we just went to Portugal, and I tend to be more of a get someplace and feel it out and don't make a ton of plans. But this trip, I really planned it out, and I thought about the audience of two teenage boys and my husband and what they would really want to do, as well as I would enjoy. I think that's what made the trip so successful. It wasn't just, hey, we're going to go hit 5 museums today and suck it up, which is what my husband would like to do. And it wasn't, we're just going to sit on the beach and drink caipirinhas, which is what I would want to do. We really had a nice mix. We went to the Maritime Museum, which everybody fell asleep in the planetarium for that, except for me, which was not on my list to go do anyway, but they enjoyed a little nap there. And we got to do the beach, and the boys got to surf and swim, and we did off-roading, and we did lots of boat trips, and we ate lots of food, and we went to fun bars, and we got a car so that we could really do that exploration like you were talking about, which I think is so much more fun when you just drive into a town and you're like, I wonder where we are. We literally went to a town to try to find a bar to watch a soccer game. And the bar in that town was like a little stall in between people's homes with like 8 men sitting there drinking on the side of the road. Amazing. And we were like, this is so much more fun. This is so cool.
Amazing. You know? And you're showing your boys that like, you don't really know, but if you just drive,
it will just go figure it out. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And we're hoping to do a lot more travel. And I think the boys, every time they get to go somewhere and use those passports, are so excited to see more of the world. Both of our older sons are in the International Baccalaureate program at school, which is supposed to give them a world view. And in my opinion, I'm like, they need to take these kids at least somewhere else in the world, which they don't do. So I want to be the one that shows them some of the world so they can have a bigger perspective and understand some of what they're reading and learning. I know that your son has been in so many countries, so that's great. And he has multiple languages. I can't say that my kids are really mastered Spanish through school. We're trying to do Spanish only dinners at our house to help reinforce language, because I think it's important to have more than one language. But thank God English gets you by most places. At least you can find your toilet. Yeah.
And you can create it. You got both your boys are full of curiosity. With these conversations, I really want to encourage our listeners to hear things we talk about and kind of demand we go deeper. Because honestly, Christine, I know we have I think that Nicole and Courtney said that we really can't talk longer than, I think it was like 35 or 40 minutes, because literally we could go for hours and never.
Right.
I mean, that is a cross-country trip worth recording.
Yes.
For material. But I know that we've got some really great plans to invite questions from our listeners. We definitely want to include Courtney and Nicole. And I think this experience is really going to reveal itself to us as we go into the next section. I want to ask you one final question to help transition, where Courtney and Nicole want to help us finish. But the question to you, Christine, is you and I have spoken about a lot of different business ideas over the years. I started to kind of make a list of some of the ideas that we've done, because we were going to sell things, we were going to travel places, we were going to do retreats, and we did all kinds of things that we thought could be fun to do together. But this situation, meaning us getting together and doing this conversation in a really organized way, in a consistent way, was different. We decided to bring it to fruition. So my question to you is, why this and why now?
Well, for me, when you brought this up, I said, oh, I know how to do a podcast. Number one, I know how to do it. Number two, I am a voracious listener of podcasts. I love them and I appreciate them. And I know what I don't like. So I'm hoping I can keep what I don't like out of ours. And the other thing is, my poor team over 13 years has literally heard me on a call. I overshare. That's part of me. I overshare. And then I look at my younger staff and I say, you know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me when you're hitting perimenopause. You're going to be like, I remember that boss I had forever ago was warning me about this. Or when I have my first kid, Christine told me this. So I say that jokingly, like, you'll thank me later. I know you're rolling your eyes at me now. And so it was such a logical conversation, I think, to have as you guys get to know Courtney and Nicole. I think the cool thing we pointed out is we've got a 20-something, a 30-something, a 40-something, and a 50-something in this conversation, is that their generation brings insights into my life regularly that I don't expect. Because I could sound so self-righteous and I know everything and I've been through it. Let me tell you, ladies, how it's going to be done. Everybody knows I have a problem with the word lady anyway, but they tell me things that their generation sees as totally fact and true that I am like shocked by. And I am so admiring of. They don't just take for granted that they're going to fall into typical gender roles. They don't just accept how things are for women in many ways that I did because I just didn't know better. And my generation, maybe we were just starting to get the idea to really push through that glass ceiling, but we were like with our helmets on and we were ready to fight and the big shoulder pads of our mothers going in and like trying to look like men to be able to conquer the men. Whereas these women are like, no, great. I am ultimately feminine. I am capable. I am not going to accept the status quo. We are doing it our way. And it's so cool to see it. You're going to know that I have a little bit of an obsession with TikTok, which maybe I'm the oldest person there. But anyway, I am just constantly fascinated by the things that our next generation of women are doing. I'm so inspired by their activism, by their ability to just get things done. I just learned yesterday that Kamala's entire social media team is 25 and younger, 25 years young and younger.
Unbelievable.
And they are killing it. So I love having that younger perspective. So ultimately, I think they may teach us more than we teach, but that could just be the trick on us in the long run. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I will tell you. I hope that's the case.
Me too. I would love to pull Courtney and Nicole in if they want to come off mute. And Saphira, I'm going to include you guys in this. I'm going to answer these too, but I'm going to do some just rapid fire questions. All right. Hey, Courtney.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
So these women literally keep my life running and Saphira's life running too, since we work with Saphira's business. And they are just incredibly smart women. And thank you guys for being part of this with us and helping us produce the show. Really appreciate it. All right. So this is just some fun stuff to get to know you guys. So I'm going to ask everybody, and we'll just go in some sort of semblance of order. I don't know. Saphira, you can kick off this first one so we don't talk over each other. But what is your favorite guilty pleasure snack?
Chips.
Chips. I love chips. Any particular type?
Or tortilla chips.
Oh, nice.
Tortilla chips. That's like my crack. Yeah.
What about you, Courtney?
Salt and vinegar chips for me. I can't have chips in the house or else I'll eat them. So anytime they're around, I mean, that's just my favorite.
Nicole?
I'm a sweets person. So like the first thing that came to mind is like a double stuffed Oreo, but then ice cream. And then I was like, no, cookie dough. So I mean, if it has chocolate, like I'm going to eat it.
I am a Cheetos, not cheese puffs, but Cheetos girl. And they cannot be in my house. I'll eat a whole bag. So 3 salties and 1 sweet here. I love it. All right. So I'm making you a cocktail right now, Nicole, and I'm giving you a choice. It's going to be wine, which is not making you a cocktail. That's literally pouring you a drink, or I'm going to make you a tequila drink. Which one are you taking?
Oh, probably a tequila drink. Spicy
Nice.
marg.
Awesome. Courtney, what about you?
Tequila all the way.
All the way. Saphira, what am I pouring you?
The driest, crispest, coolest whites that you can muster.
Drink a whole bunch of
and very minerally. And I prefer it to be from the east side of Sicily, preferably on Mount Etna, if I'm going to be precise.
So we know what we're getting her, guys, when we go to Total Wine.
Yeah.
I drank a lot of your white wine that got left in my garage. So delicious. I traditionally would have a very robust, full-bodied Cabernet, but I'm on a medication right now that's not making that taste so good. So I think I might be getting the tequila drink. Courtney and Nicole and I had some spicy margs this past weekend together. They were very good. All right. This one, Courtney, I got to give a background on this question because we did a retreat for M2M for our business and we did karaoke and nobody bothered to tell me that there was a karaoke ringer in the room that literally took the microphone and took over the whole entire room, which then made me all the more self-conscious. Courtney is an incredible karaoke singer. Mm-hmm. So Courtney, what is your go-to karaoke song?
So historically, it's been Edge of Glory by Lady Gaga. I would say I'm now transitioning into a chaperone phase. I have a karaoke birthday party coming up and I plan to sing Hot to Go. I think it'll be a crowd pleaser.
And the best part of this right now, guys, is Saphira's literally looking at us wondering who Chaperone is. Is that right, Saphira?
Huh?
Oh, goodness. All right. We're going to have to play.
This emoji where it's like question marks or like, we're in the world of Saphira.
Saphira is notoriously not up to date on pop culture. So we are going to help her as that goes.
The question I had was like, karaoke? I've never even done that.
Well, that's just sad that you've never done karaoke.
Well, that's where we are, friends.
That's to the list of things we need to go do.
We need to go. That's on the list. Nicole, what are you singing?
You generally do not want me to sing. So I'm like a crowd, like where no one can hear me kind of singer. Because me and a mic, like it's not good. Growing up in the car when mom and I would sing, my stepdad would just turn the volume up.
Me too.
I don't know that I have a song that I would like proudly go sing, but anything from the crowd, you're like pumping it up, girl.
Yeah. I usually like to pick something that's a duet. So so I can keep the microphone really far away and nobody really notices that I'm not on the mic. Back in the day, a lot of Shania Twain karaoke and Dixie Chicks.
I know who she is.
I'm glad. That's a good one. That's good that you do.
Check.
I definitely am not a great singer, and I will just say I did challenge a poor intern of ours to sing WAP at a company event, which was maybe a mean thing to do, but it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Especially as I realized what half the lyrics were that I did not know. So that was entertaining. Saphira, you need to go put that on your list to listen to so you know why that's funny later today.
Yeah, I have a video of panning to everyone's faces while that was happening, and it is truly one of my favorite pieces.
We'll get an explicit rating if I tell you what WAP stands for, so you have to go look that up for yourself. WAP. All right.
I'll ask my 17-year-old. I'm sure he'll be able to tell me.
Oh, yeah, he knows. Yeah, no problem. All right. So this is a bigger question. So I'm going to save Saphira last this one. But Nicole, tell me something on your bucket list that you haven't done yet that you want to do.
I want to go skydiving. I was supposed to go for my 18th birthday with my stepdad, who spent 20 years of his life jumping out of planes. And he was like, I'm too old for that. It's not happening. Find someone else. So I just haven't found someone else that I feel.
I'll go with you.
I've done the indoor simulation and that's cool. But now I'm like, all right, let's pull the parachute and see what happens.
I did it probably about 20 years ago, and I loved it. So I would love to do it again. Courtney, what about you?
I don't really keep a bucket list, but as a goal that my husband and I have recently talked about is just to go travel somewhere once a year in a different country, something like that. I think especially since COVID, you just appreciate getting out and about and seeing the world when you can while you're young. And I think so many of our parents and grandparents say, oh, like, I wish I did it when I was younger. You think you have time after you retire. You think you have time when your children grow up, but you really don't. So we want to make an effort to do it now and at least go somewhere once a year. Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to see where you go next. All right, Saphira, what's on that bucket list? I'm sure there's a lot.
Well, I'm just thinking what's top of mind at this moment, because I check my bucket lists off like all the time. I haven't been able to put this on the calendar yet. There's an underwater amphitheater in Palau where I would like to go diving. So I'm a big diver. I don't know if you knew I was a scuba diver. But there's a kind of an underwater architecture and auditorium that I've always wanted to go and do, kind of dive in Palau. And I want to take my son and my husband and go experience that.
That sounds amazing.
What about you? What's on your bucket?
I think on my bucket list right now is I'd like to go to Mallorca with my family next year, which I think might happen. I know that's a low-hanging fruit, but I think it's going to happen. The other thing on my bucket list is to eventually move away from the Northern Virginia area. I would ideally like to go live in another country for a time period. So that will take a little bit of time, but it is on my bucket list and it's something I'm constantly researching, exploring, and thinking about. So that is a bigger one.
Support that as well. We can support that very easily.
Exactly. Well, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Obviously, we have so much to dive into. I think we just skimmed the surface of so many things, and I hope you have gotten a little insight into who I am, who Saphira is, Courtney and Nicole are, and we will be back for a weekly episode of You'll Thank Us Later. And the great part in this is, as Saphira said, we want to answer your questions. So if you can DM us or leave a comment on our socials or email us at questions@you'llthankUslater.com, we would love to answer those questions for you and dive a little deeper into them and give you some of our experiences and mistakes and advice that you can take or you can just ignore, whatever you choose.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything. So
talking about it all.
Bring it on, girls and boys.
What happens to our children when they're walking through the halls of the school and somebody found this podcast? They're going to hate us, Saphira. It's going to be nuts.
That's right.
There's a word they use for that.
Payback is a bitch.
Cringe.
Payback is a fringe.
No, cringe.
Oh, cringe. Got it. Cringe. Cringe on the fringe. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.